Yeah, no
Yep, it's
worries.
recording to my computer now.
All right, cool.
So yeah, I guess we are recording now. I love your shirt, by the way.
Oh,
What
thank
is?
you. It was just released today.
Oh, is it a
It's
Snask? Is it a Snask thing?
it's a Snask merch. We just released the merch online shop today.
That's
So it's
awesome.
like
That's sick.
fat pink tigers on it.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you draw it?
So it's yeah, I mean the studio did, so
Oh,
not me
nice.
personally.
Does the fat tiger have a name?
It doesn't. Well, the name is Fat Tiger. If you would have a
That's a
cat, the
pretty,
name would be Cat.
I
So
mean, that's a pretty decent name. Yeah, call it a fat tiger. I actually like that name.
yeah.
Why I actually mean I've been meaning to ask this question, but what is it with the pink and Snask?
Um, we basically just started out straight from university, and while we were still students, we chose pink and gold as our colors because we
Mm,
thought that they were the most beautiful combination of colors.
yeah.
And then later we found out that some people think it's female, or some people think it's, I don't know, many different things. It has a lot of people think a lot about it. If you compare it to green, no one really thinks about it that much. But pink, people tend to have all these weird connotations to it. So it's also an interesting color. I mean, just for a few hundred years ago, it was a manly color because pink is a hue of red, and red was sangre, blood, and blood was royal, and only men could wear red, for
Mm.
example. But in Western society and modern society, people think that it's female, but it's basically a hint of red, so it's just a color like anyone else.
I'm I'm asking history questions now, but is it I mean, cuz if red meant like royal colors and like, color for power, wouldn't that mean that pink means like it's diluted power almost in a way? Cuz it's not
Well, that's a good
necessarily
question.
red.
That's a good question. But I do know that there's been kings who wore it on their robes.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, because
uh,
their robes are always like
so
silky.
big, and yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good question though.
I
I
love
don't know
pink
the
though.
answer.
I do
Yeah,
love pink. Oh, can you hear me now?
that's okay. Yep, I
Oh,
can
okay.
hear you.
I love pink. I think I agree with you that it's a very like culturally charged, packed color. It's a very controversial color. It's like, oh, it's a color for girls and like boys shouldn't wear pink or like, it's not masculine enough if you wear pink or if you like the color pink. I've personally always found that a bit ridiculous because like it's a visual thing, if you like that color, then you like it. It has nothing to do with, the whatever connotations it has to cultural connotations it has to do with it. It's just a color.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And I mean, some people can wear a shirt nowadays that is pink, and they can be cool, but God forbid if they wore a pink hat or a pink trousers. Unless you're a professional golf player, then you're allowed to have pink trousers without people thinking you have some kind of other sexuality.
mm,
But you can't have pink shoes. But it's so strange how, depending on where on your body you wear pink, it can define what sexual preference you have. That's very strange.
interesting. I didn't know about that
Yeah,
actually. Interesting.
but of
So
course it's just bullshit. So
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with all the connotations that are linked to not just pink, but really with any colors.
Mm.
Um, do you is pink your favorite color though?
My own,
Yeah.
my personal. Well, it depends on. I mean, I don't wear pink that much. I
Uh,
wear a lot of black, just black. Um, and some other colors. I mean, I think, but of course, I do like pink as a color, but maybe it's not my personal favorite color
I always say
to wear. Yeah.
I always say my favorite color is rainbow cuz I have decision issues and I love all colors. I do like wearing black and I love wearing black with like with like little bits of like really bright colors to accentuate the black. You know what I mean? Or
Mm-hmm.
vice versa with like white with some like popping colors. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my go-to kind of look. But then again, my style is just pretty much all over the place.
That's good.
You said that you kind of briefly mentioned that, you know, pink and gold was like the gold uh pun intended combination for, you know, for colors when you first kind of um founded Snask. Was that
Hmm.
how long was that ago then?
So that was almost 14 years ago, or
Oh.
even 15 years ago, because we started the company almost 14 years ago. But 1.5 years prior to that, that's when we started the idea in the university, and
Sure.
that's when we decided the colors, and we wanted to be maximalistic in colors and
Mm,
minimalistic in typography. So I
mm,
guess that pink and gold was very maximalistic. I mean, if you would go into a church, a Catholic church that has all the gold, imagine if they replaced all the white details within the entire church with pink. That would have been much more maximalistic and fun church to go into rather than just being
mm.
white and gold.
Yeah. I I forgot the name of the church. It might have been Cathedral actually. Um but it was a very very beautiful Gothic, let's just say it's cathedral building in Vietnam. And you know, I went there on a little holiday with my family recently, and it was just like no other cathedrals that I've seen before. It was just the whole building was bright baby pink and some white. But it was the most beautiful thing. It's like it's a tourist attraction for people who visit
Mm,
Vietnam. And, you know, it's like it's beautiful and it's fun to look at. And, you know, who says that Gothic buildings um you know, traditional religious buildings have to be like, oh, kind of like stone and like kind of stone structures and, you know, black and like all serious looking and really kind of witch kind of castle looking. You know, some of them are really beautiful,
yeah,
but you know,
yeah, it's
those
strange because God gave the rainbow as a sign to humanity that he loves men. Uh, he
mm,
didn't say female. So I guess if you have a church that is pink, maybe he'll like it even more. I don't think he has like boring black and gray Catholics or
yeah.
whatever churches. Yeah,
I wonder
more
why
she.
it I mean, maybe it's just kind of like a resource thing where, you know, the only materials, architectural materials they could get their hands on was, you know, just kind of really kind of bland colored materials like wood or stones and rocks and such. So maybe traditionally speaking, it made sense that they didn't really have much space to think about kind of aesthetic colors or, you know, it was just a more kind of functional physical place for people to gather and, you know, do their religious rituals and such. But I feel like
Probably, yeah.
recently, you know, yeah, but recently I feel like, you know, with the advance in architecture and, you know, people's need to like just really be visually, you know, people are visually driven, and you know, we are in essence visual creatures. um and so with all the resources and all the technological advancements, why not, you know, spice it up a little bit and make it more fun, you know, not just normal buildings but with just with religious buildings as well.
Definitely, they should have an AI church where the whole church or cathedral is has an
Oh
AI
man.
built in that is in constant connection to God or whoever.
Oh
And
yeah,
maybe
oh my
God is a
god.
female and there's like a screen of her speaking. That would be fun. A
Oh my god,
digital
that would
church.
be, yeah, that would be the church that like, yeah. I feel like, you know, this COVID situation has been an eye-opening has given an eye-opening opportunity for like for in the religious realm as well for people to be a little bit more technologically experimental, you know, like with COVID people have had to have gatherings via virtual chats like this right now how we're talking. And you know, um and not just with technology, but I think, you know, we there are so many ways we can spice an experience of. And I think that includes also with religious rituals as well and religious gatherings.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of churches in Sweden?
No, well, I mean, we have a lot of churches, but we're a very non-religious country. So it's most people are actually not religious. There's a little belt in the middle of Sweden called the Bible Belt, where a lot of people are a bit more religious, but Sweden is very, very not religious.
It's a very kind of so is it kind of like a very atheist kind of country, very very kind of neutral country in terms of religion?
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of people in Sweden don't really believe in God, but maybe they believe in something, but not really religion. Yeah.
Okay. I forgot the word for it. It's not an
Agnostic?
atheist.
No.
Agnostic, that's it. They
Yeah.
think there is something spiritual going on besides just all this like physical thing that we can see, but it's not necessarily Buddhism or Christianity or Catholic.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense. In Korea, it's very, very like either Buddhist or Buddhism or very Christianity oriented. I think these two, Buddhism and Christianity are the big two things. I think Christianity's getting bigger and bigger over anything else. Yeah, it's interesting how the Western religion has kind of taken over, and it's really interesting to see how the Asian culture kind of fuses with the Western culture, not just with when a Western religion comes over to Korea, it becomes very like this weird fusion of both the Western culture and the Eastern culture. And it's really interesting to see the difference between Korean Christians and British Christians or American Christians. They're all really, really different. And obviously I can't generalize all Christians, not even with countries, but there are definitely big cultural differences between all Christians. But it's really interesting. I've never actually been to Stockholm, so I'd love I think you're the first person from Sweden that I've actually gotten to talk with.
Oh wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to come. You shouldn't come now though, because Stockholm is getting, well, Sweden is getting darker and colder.
Oh,
And
right.
you should really come in the summer. That's when Stockholm is at its best. It's a water city, so it's water flowing all around the city, and we have something
Nice.
called the lungs of the city, like breathing lungs. And it's a political decision that there have to be parks going from the outside of the city all the way into the city center. So it's like a lot of huge parks as well. So it's a really nice summer city for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard is Flying Tiger from Sweden? The
Flying
brand.
Tiger.
Oh my God.
Maybe it is.
Copenhagen isn't in Sweden, is it? I'm so bad
No.
with geography. Okay, sorry. I
Copenhagen is in Denmark.
Okay. Sorry. There's a brand called Flying Tiger that I adore. It's become massive in the UK and recently kind of imported into Korea, and it's become massive here as well. But it's like it's a really small store that's packed with like really random stuff. My mom calls them pretty garbage because really the stuff that they sell is you don't ever use them. It's just decorative reasons, and it's just like little really shitty markers and such that you never probably would use after buying them and then just look at it once, but it's just they sell a lot of beautiful funky stuff, and I love it. I'm not much of a
Nice.
spender. I'm not much of a spender in like really I'm not much of a spender in those pretty garbage stuff, but I love looking at it and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you much into decoration and buying stuff for just the sake of buying it and decorating?
Maybe not just for the sake of buying, but I do like like buying pretty things, but maybe more. I think I'm more very, what do you say, kind of like to spend money on a very high quality
Mm.
item. So I tend to over research, and then I'm fooled by branding, of course, and the story. And if it's built from good materials, I'm that customer who you can fool easily by telling a good story. I'll happily overpay. Yeah.
That's actually really interesting that you say that, because as someone who runs a creative agency and has worked with brands and know how, branding works and what goes behind it, you must know that when you see a really good branding or a good storytelling, that there must have been lots of like strategists, like strategy behind it and a lot of marketing behind it, but you still buy into it, you know?
Of course. I mean, I know exactly what parts how it works, but I still love it. I think it's like a fashion designer will like fashion,
Mm.
even though they understand how it works. I think they still like love it, and I think that even though I know how branding works, I'm still attracted to it.
Mm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, completely makes sense. Um,
Mm,
so I think I kind of wanted to, one of the reasons why I think I love Snask so much is, yes, I love the work and it's just so freaking amazing. Like the colors that you use, the art direction and the sets, the storytelling and the visuals. It's just, I don't know if, I hope you don't get offended or anything by me saying this, but I've described Snask's work as, to people that who didn't know what Snask was, and I was saying that, I'm such a huge fan of Snask. I described it as basically Wes Anderson on speed. It's like it's got all the like visual, like, you love, like your eyes are pleased when you look at the work, but also the stories behind it, and you know the kind of the whole package is just so compelling. That's one of the reasons why I love Snask. But I think also another reason is not only the work itself, but also the people who are involved. And like you, for instance, I could tell that you are a personality, you're a character, and that you have a voice, and a very distinctive one indeed. And
thank
I
you.
think I think that whole kind of, I think that the you as a founder at just kind of really being a character and having that voice come through all the work that you put out on Instagram or your website or all the platforms. I think that's really what brings out the appeal in Snask. But I also sometimes wondered if that kind of voice, as if your voice as a creative person has ever gotten in the way of running a creative business, you know, running an
Yeah.
agent.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for those fine words.
Just being a fangirl.
Um, I think that that's perfect. I think that Wes Anderson on speed is probably the best compliment we could get. That would probably describe how the way we see our own work as well, and the way we want our work to be
Yes.
described and received. When it comes to me as a person, I think that, I mean, I know that we're six people at Snask plus a network of a lot of talented people.
Mm.
So a lot of everything you see is basically just a collaboration between all of us. You can't be one person, and I mean everyone we become a unity, all of us, and together we create like things that we love, even if it's like our own projects or other stuff. But if it comes to being a creative person, and if it's come in the way of running a business, yeah, of course. I mean, when we started up, we were really bad at business. we didn't know that part at all almost, and running a company was like so boring and hard work because we didn't really know how to do things. We had to
Yeah.
learn everything all the time. But of course, there's a strength in that as well. I mean, we were told from the beginning that we shouldn't start an agency, that we should get 10 years of experience in the industry
Mm.
first.
So they
And if we
say,
would have
right?
listened, yeah, so they say, and if we would have listened, we would have been three and a half years now, and now we're 13 and a half years.
Mm.
But we thought that if we would do that, like work 10 years and gain experience, we would gain other people's experience, and probably old white men, their experience and the way they want to work and the hierarchy they like and the structures and stuff like that, and the solutions to problems. Like Kotler's marketing theories were written well before the internet even existed,
Mm.
so it feels really obsolete, some of them. So I think that what we felt last, well, fuck it, well, let's just make all the mistakes ourselves and then come up with the solutions that we think is the best. And if we do this, we should further down the line um, break even on when we like lose less on having this mindset and start winning and gaining more. And I think that we definitely reached that pretty fast,
Mm.
realizing that coming up with our own solutions to problems is way better for us, and not being afraid to make mistakes as long as we learn from them. So that's still what we do 14 years down the line. And we're still all six people, creative people who make mistakes that probably business persons wouldn't. But at the same time, we're doing it our way. And who's to say what's the best way to do things? I mean, you can be five people raising a Buddha statue up on a mountain, and then one of you understands that, oh, there's an easier way to get this statue up on this mountain. They wouldn't take 10 days, it would take one day, and then you tell someone, and then probably the older monk would say, yeah, but thank you, but maybe the reason why we're putting this statue up on the mountain is not to get the statue up the fastest way. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a process. Maybe it's that we
Mm.
all get to do something together.
Something that we gain in the
Something that
process
we
of it.
gain, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think that not all, but some business people are very profit-minded, and it should be very effective and cost-effective and highest profit margins and stuff like that. But maybe that's not the way we want to do things or should do things. So I think that, yeah, I think that the way we are doing it, we feel better doing it that way, even
Mm.
if it's less effective. And yeah.
Yeah, and it's more fun, you know? It's rather than, oh, I'm just doing this just to fill that 10 years of experience, that minimum experience. And after this 10 years, I'll have enough knowledge from whoever, very old people who dominate the ad world. Whatever that I've learned over the 10 years from them, I'll be able to use to build my very successful ad company myself, and who's to say that they'll give you the best knowledge to run the best agency.
No,
I completely
exactly. I
agree with you.
mean, Steve Jobs didn't work for another like Steve Jobs for 10 years. Bill Gates didn't, and a lot of people never did that. Oprah didn't work for another TV host for 10 years before
Mm.
she realized. I mean, I think it's a lot about like take that leap of faith and
Mm.
just like go for it, and be visionary and following the path that you love. And I think that if you do that, I think you will be successful in whatever
Mm.
way that is.
I agree. I completely agree. Um, I mean, I was, I guess, a year ago, I was also at a point where I had to make the choice, and I was put in the position to make the choice because I was so sure of what I didn't want at the time. I wasn't sure what exactly what I was going for after, but I was sure that I hated the 9 to 5 job. It was just not my thing. Nothing personal. Well, it was personal. It was very personal. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the idea, and I had tried it. I didn't like the fact that I was working for somebody else. I just didn't like it.
Hmm.
I think that's another matter from, teamwork. If I need to work on teamwork, I think that's something completely different. But as far as working for other people in a corporate environment, I just knew that it was not my thing. So I had to make a choice, either to just white knuckle it through and just get used to it or suck it up, or I could just, take the leap of faith and do something that was not necessarily the most lucrative thing to do at the time, and just make music and make videos alone in my room. And it's been going great. I'm having so much fun, and I wouldn't say that it's the most successful thing in the world, but I love the idea of working this up and improving it every day, and being in control of what I make and being in control of my business. Um, so I think,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that
think
sounds great. I mean, yeah, that's I think following your heart, no matter if it's in work or in life, I think that's the only way you can go, just like you did.
it's a scary thing, though. It's really scary
Very
for some
scary.
reason. It's scary to listen to your heart than to listen to other people telling you what to do. It's a weird thing how we never learn to trust our own voice, but is so accustomed and comfortable listening to other people telling us what to do. And yet we hate it, I don't know about other
Mm,
people, but I hate being told what to do. But yet I still do. I still get told what to do, and I still get tempted to listen to other people telling me what to do and actually follow
yeah.
their voice. It's a bizarre thing. And it's a shame that schools don't teach us those kind of stuff. They just teach us maths, social s- I don't know, social studies and sciences. They never teach us about how to listen to our own voice, how to, follow our hearts and follow our intuitions and take risks, those kind of practical things living life. They never teach us that. And, we just all have
They
to.
don't prepare us for life.
No.
They prepare us to work.
Mm,
Um, but I mean, if they were preparing us for life, they would have subjects like empathy, moral, relationships, follow your heart. Yeah, like you say, take risks. All of those things would probably be their own subjects, but now they are like trying to prepare us for work, which is
yeah.
so wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of it's very weird, school systems. I find it very weird. And I think I had the best years of my life. I think school isn't redundant at all, even with the current systems, but not for the reasons that it is traditionally set up as schools. Not for educational reasons, but I think for social reasons. I think schools play a very big role in kind of just as its kind of social settings with people around, and you share a classroom with your classmates and a teacher. I think that setting is a good kind of learning experience for us growing up. But I think after a certain point, really, it gets really kind of repetitive and difficult and unnecessary for
Mm.
educational reasons, I think. But yeah, it's a weird thing. What's school like in Sweden, actually?
How do you mean?
Is it
Like more?
so do you have like elementary school, middle school, high school, and then you go to college?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
okay.
we have the same system, but you basically go from 1 to 9th grade when you're 6 up until you're 13, and then you go 7 till 9th grade.
Mm.
No, what do you say? 1, 2, 3,
Okay,
um,
okay.
from when you're 14 up until you're 7, 18, something like that, and then it's university.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, some countries have a different system for schools. In the UK, my friends were always going off about like A levels and like like A levels or like what was that? Something that came after A levels. I don't really remember what it was called, but it's like they have their own system, and then they go to like foundation course, which is kind of
Yeah.
like a pre-university, kind of pre-college course, and then they go to university. So we all have different systems, I guess. But I did want to mention that I did want to touch upon the fact that it does seem like we have similarities in that we are in a way both running a creative business. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have taken a risk, and now we've set up this kind of system where we are to a certain point in charge of what we put out and share with the world, and how we kind of create income for ourselves. But I think the major difference would be that I have no client. I don't have a client necessarily. I just kind of make videos that I think is good, and I make music that I think is good. I create content that I think is fun to make and compelling for myself to make. Of course, I
Mm.
think about the audience. I think about my listeners, and I care about them greatly. But really, I want to make stuff that I personally enjoy the most. But on the Snask side, you have a client who comes to you and says, this is the brief, I'm assuming, if that's how it works. And, we have this aim as a brand to reach,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to help us reach that goal. So do you think there's a difference between the two? Because in the traditional sense, I am an artist because I kind of do whatever I want to do. But would you kind of consider yourself as an artist, and everyone in the agency as an artist, because you're not really doing whatever that you want to do? You have a client who kind of who is working towards the same goal as you have, because they're your clients. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, I don't. I don't see myself as an artist, and I
Mm,
don't think anyone in our industry are artists. There are, of course, illustrators that sometimes they do illustrations for themselves, and in that respect, they become artists. But most people in our industry are not artists.
mm,
But of course, there are. I mean, filmmakers who make film for and then if they make a film that is not an ad, then it's more artistic. And
right.
if we make a music video, like we released yesterday, a music video for Viagra Boys, that's
Right.
entirely artistic, because it's not a thought about, like, I mean, it's only a music band that we like, that we speak to about the video and the
Mm,
record label, but it's not like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, not like a client. When it comes to client work, we normally need to, yeah, they send us a brief, we normally rewrite the brief because we think that maybe it's not what they need or what we should do for them.
mm,
But of course, there are agencies that just blindly take the brief and just deliver what they want. Um, but we are never artists in that sense, like you, because we of course have clients. Then we would go nuts if we don't get to do our own
mm,
things. So like our new collection that we've done is purely for our own, like, artistic needs, and we do posters and we do loads of different projects where we, like, self-initiated projects where we get to be more artistic,
mm.
because I think that's really important as well.
So you kind of, even if it's under the same name of Snask, it's all kind of different purposes. Like with a client work, it's really kind of business work, and it's a very kind of purpose-driven work. Whereas things like music videos, or just making posters for the sake of making posters, there's more like an outlet kind of purpose for it, it
Yeah,
seems.
I mean, exactly. So I mean, you can make art without a real purpose or maybe a real meaning to it, and people might look at it and just think, oh, that's beautiful, I want that on my wall, even though I don't know what it means, and not even the artist knows. But if you are a graphic designer working with clients, everything you do need to have a meaning. Everything you do need to have some kind of message. It's always a sender and a receiver of a message. In art, it doesn't have to be like that, and I kind of like that. You can just look at a painting and drown in it for hours, and you don't really know why, and you can make up your own interpretation of it. While the industry I'm in, the reason is basically to decide what the viewer should interpret it as. If not, you haven't done your job correctly. So I mean, yeah, I mean, if you do a soda pop ad, of course, the viewer need to realize that it's a soda pop. Otherwise, you haven't done your job correctly. While it's in art, you don't have to do anything. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, you
So
don't need to have a soda pop picture in it.
No,
if it's art.
Exactly.
That's oh, you know, I think that's the thing about ads, you know, advertising that I find is very kind of intriguing, to say the least. That, you know, there is the purpose of wanting to elevate a certain emotion in the people who are viewing it. And that seems like a very difficult task to me. It's like, it's almost like having somebody telling me to cry on demand. I can never cry on demand. Okay, I can, like, I don't know, pull up an onion in front of my eyes for like 5 minutes and I can, you know, force myself physically to cry. But in terms of really bringing out the emotions, it's really difficult. And I can't even make myself cry, let alone making other people cry, you know? Um, it seems like a very difficult task.
It is difficult, but I mean, I think that also there are different ways of doing advertisements. Some agencies just want to write something selling, and they want people to see it as many times as possible, and then the rationale
It's
is that then
ingrained
people will
and
go to the store
yeah.
exactly and recognize it and buy it like zombies. I think that what we kind of want to do is have some artistic parts in the work that we do and evoke emotions and make people like a brand. For us, it's more about less about the product or the service that the company is trying to sell, and more about elevating a brand and making the brand stand up for something, and making it come across to the recipient in a good way. And I think that there are much more freedom artistically to work like that, instead of just talking about the benefits of a product or a service.
Sure. When clients come to you, do they usually kind of come with an open mind and it's like, you know, I'm kind of open to our kind of all artistic directions that you guys think would fit for our purpose or our brand? Or do they sometimes come with like a specific, like, oh, I want this to look blue, or like
No, maybe not
edgy?
blue like that, but I mean, they often have an image in their head that they
Mm,
like, but then we kind of rather fast make them deviate from it, because we don't want to just do anything pretty. We want it to have a logic behind it, a reasoning, a strategy,
sure.
and then you can't just uh, do it like. But of course, we've had clients that use the expression "make it pop," but they
Mm-mm.
don't really know what it means, and it's not really useful. So we often tell the client that everyone is allowed to have opinions, but you have to be able to defend your opinion, or at least have arguments behind it. Otherwise, it's just your personal thought in this moment, and we can't have that. It's too risky to have those comments affecting the outcome.
Yeah. Do you have a specific kind of areas of advertising or brands that you don't necessarily agree with and you would, you know, you would turn it down if they came to you?
I mean, yeah, I mean, politically, we wouldn't work with the right wing,
Right.
but when it comes to, I mean, we said no to Philip Morris, to the tobacco company, but
Mm.
we're not really proud of it, because we work with alcohol, we work with beer, we would work with Absolute Vodka, and if you are really looking into it, alcohol is really devastating for women, for families, breaking up families, for so many bad things happens in the world because of alcohol, while it's then tobacco mostly injures the person who use it. So then it's kind of like, okay, what is worse? So it's like, and also, I mean, if you start thinking like that, then how good is it to work with Nike? How good is it to work with H&M? And then there's the other thing, when then people want to work for smaller brands, then normally smaller brands actually have a bigger footprint environmentally than bigger companies and stuff. So it just goes on and on and on. So if you really, really want to go into that, it's really tough to stay, stay on your moral path. So I mean, for us, yeah, we did turn down a tobacco company, but we do work with alcohol. So it's nothing that we are proud of in any way, but we wouldn't work with another political party that has another view than us.
Yeah.
That would be, that wouldn't be our thing.
Yeah, it must be really difficult to kind of, it must be really difficult for like somebody who's like a vegan or like very politically interested and very, very environmentally invested in, protecting the environment, to be working in the advertising world. I've never actually had that much trouble in that sense, other than the fact that I just hated being in the corporate environment. But it must be difficult. I can't
But
imagine.
I think that it's different things. Have you heard about Oatley?
It's a vegan milk company, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like a Swedish oat milk company,
Yeah,
basically. And they recently got into a lot of trouble because one of the buyers that invested in their company is Blackwater Bond, and Blackwater has a lot of bad reputations, huge fund. But then there's the other argument that a lot of vegan voices got heard and said, like, I've been working to get people to change from meat-based protein to vegan plant-based protein for 10 years, and I'm a big name, but it's very hard to effectively reach a change by being very black and white and say that everyone should turn vegan now or stuff like that. And actually the fastest, most effective way is for Oatley to bring in Blackwater, because that means that big investment companies will realize that there's profit and money to be had in products that are not necessarily milk or meat or stuff like that. And when they do, they will start to invest in more of those things, and then that means that more people will start buying it and using it, and that's the fastest way to change, because the other alternative would be to not grow as fast and to be very small and only have people who really understands it buying it. But that means that if we would ever take over the world, these big investment companies would have to be replaced by something else, and that would take hundreds and hundreds of years if it's even possible. I mean, the capitalistic society would need to change in order for that to happen. So if you really care about oat milk being drank instead of milk, then actually having a huge investment company starting to realize that there's profit in it is actually the fastest, most effective way for most people to make a change. So it's very like complicated question when you go into it like that, because at glance it's very easy to say, shouldn't work with them, we shouldn't do that, we shouldn't help them. But if you look into it, it's much more complicated and hard.
That is a good argument, in that, the reason why the meat industry and the carnivore diet, that's the carnivore diet, right? The carnivore lifestyle became so predominant in this world and became such a massive industry to a point where it's contributing to such a huge percentage of, the global warming and the environmental devastation, is because there's so much money to be made from that industry. And so, like you said, in these massive gigantic companies, to realize that there's money to be made in the vegan world, in the veganism kind of culture. It kind of brings attention to that world where it's not very much noticed, and now people are, oh, that's it's Oatly, it's getting bigger and bigger, and now maybe I should just try some oat milk or something. But also, I think it's a very double-edged sword situation, and that the reason, the more companies try to make money from, the more environmental devastation that takes place. I think there are definitely organic ways to grow good meat, environmentally, but it's just that these corporations are trying to make so much of it so fast that it's ruining the world.
Definitely,
Yeah. So
definitely,
I
and
think it's a
that's why, of
double-edged
course.
sword.
But of course, I think that we need to change the way society is built, because now it's not very equal, and only 1% of the world owns almost the entire world. So that's like a huge problem right there. But there's another thing. Like, there was a Swedish girl who created a burger that was half meat and half plant-based protein,
Mm.
and she mixed it together into one burger and started selling it, and she got a lot of critique from vegans and vegetarians. But that's also the same thing. If you want meat consumption to go down, her burger is actually a very, very easy step for a carnivore to take, and instantly cut their ration of meat in half, instantly. So I mean, that could be a vegan's best friend in the future, that someone created a burger that was the perfect middle step for someone to go
Just
from
making the transition.
meat based. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So I think that it's complicated.
I think that's a good move, I think a lot of vegans need to accept the fact that some people want to turn vegetarian or vegan, not just for ethical reasons, but for their health reasons as well. So,
Mm,
you know, if there's also a you know, little middle ground in between the two, I think it's a good thing to have rather than not. So yeah,
yeah,
but
definitely.
ethically, I think it's a very charged area that we don't really know the answers to. Um,
Mm,
and it's a very gray area, and I think, you know, tougher in the advertising world as well. But
yeah, for
you
sure.
just gotta follow your guts, I guess. And if it's right, if it feels okay, then right, then go for it. If not, then not.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the way to do it.
yeah, of course.
So maybe just one last question
Hmm.
uh before wrapping up. I was very personally curious about this. What is it with Snask's internship tattoos? How did it start, and what actually is it?
It's actually started with Todd Watts, an Australian intern who said that he wanted us to start this game called the Internship Dice game, where he had this dice that he'd found, this role-playing dice that had like 21 numbers on it.
Okay.
And then he said, I choose a number and I throw it, and if that number comes up, I have to photograph the dice from my angle and then tattoo it
Oh my
um,
gosh.
on my body. And he actually managed to hit exactly that number. So he had to tattoo it, and then for the next intern to come, the rules quickly changed to uh, you choose a number, and if any other number comes up, you have to tattoo the dice from that angle.
Oh.
And then naturally, it wasn't that easy for interns to not tattoo that dice. So the next intern from Canada. He also tattooed the dice. And then after them, there were a girl from the UK, and she didn't want the dice. So then the rules changed again to that everyone in Snask drew an easy tattoo on a piece of paper, and they all got put in a glass, and she picked one, and it became a chair. So she got a chair on her arm, and then on and on it went. So now like there's interns at Snask get tattooed, and they get tattooed by Fabrizio, our designer. He's self-taught.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so he got a tattoo machine as a Christmas gift from Snask, and then he started to what do you say, to practice it. He actually did my
On the interns.
this says weekends if you read it the right way.
Nice.
So he did that one, but he's done a lot.
It's pretty nice.
And,
yeah.
It's good. So now it's a tradition. It's not.
So he's the in-house tattooist for
This Fabrizio, yeah.
That's awesome. So you just have to get a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest intern tattoo that one has gotten? What was the biggest one?
I have to think. Not really sure. But I do know that one girl definitely didn't want a tattoo, and she was very, very. She was like, no, I don't want a tattoo. And in the end, she wanted a tattoo on her finger, and it was the first ever tattoo she had. And getting a tattoo, your first ever tattoo on your finger, is kind of
painful.
Big thing.
Wait, is it because it's painful?
It's also very visual.
Oh right, yeah.
It's like getting one on your hand. It's the first one you get, then it's like, oh, that's hardcore. So yeah.
But also, I heard that finger tattoos get erased quite easily. Well, they get kind of.
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
Yeah, they fade off quite easily because you wash it so much.
Wash it, and it's always in the sun and stuff like that. So
yeah. Oh, I would definitely get a tattoo, even if it's not an internship. Yeah, I would. I've been meaning. I'm a tattoo virgin. I don't have a tattoo. This is just a doodle. I just love doodling on my hand. And if I have so many ideas for tattoos that if I were to get all of them tattooed, it would literally fill my whole body. So I can't do that. And I also have commitment issues with those. So I really, really need to be sure that I want it on my body permanently. But yeah, oh my gosh, tattoos. I feel like I'm going to get addicted to it once I get one, you know?
You do.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
You seem to have a few yourself as well, actually.
Yeah, I think I have 15 of them or something.
Nice. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get addicted once I get my first one. It's like, I'm sure of it. It's just, yeah.
I once went into a Korean bathhouse.
Like onsens, like
yeah,
saunas,
exactly,
saunas.
yeah. And I walked around in there, and there were so many people staring at me, and I didn't understand why. And then when I walked out, then I saw signs: tattoos strictly forbidden.
Oh, yeah, some of them actually do that. Yeah. And TVs as well, television shows and like public televisions, they kind of like paste it with some like weird plaster to cover it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know about American or like Western shows, but yeah, in the Eastern kind of TV shows, you need to cover it up if it's significantly visible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless it's a like very offensive tattoo, I don't see the point of people. Oh, and also, I also like, this is a weird one. In Korean movies, they also blur out cigarettes as well in movies. Wow. Yeah, it's like, I really don't see the point of it. They just blur out the fingers. They just blur it out when they're taking a smoke. I don't understand, but yeah, they censor out the weirdest things. But yeah. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot about saunas, that they don't allow some people with tattoos. It's definitely not a common thing for people to have in Korea.
No.
I mean, obviously if somebody comes in and it's like like you have a dragon, like there's a dragon like that's flying across your whole body and like down to your thighs, and it's just covering up your whole body, then obviously you would, see it and just immediately kind of instinctively get a little bit, oh, whoa, that's a big imagery. But, if it's like just a couple of tattoos, I really, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I would
That's
definitely get
good.
it as well. But yeah, thanks for answering that question. That was a
Of
really fun
course.
story. Thank you, Fredrik. That was really fun. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming
thank
and
you.
talking to me. Um,
Thank you for
thank
having me.
you. I hope you have a really nice day. And say hi to everyone at Snask and tell them that I'm a huge fan of the studio.
I will. I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.